looking towards that one solution. Everything else seems to have stalled. We need sustainable, active travel plans to solve the issues of the transportation chaos in Galway. We have a city that's congested. We have a rural area that's underserviced. Nothing seems to be working. It's wholly dysfunctional. If we look abroad, we can see towns and cities just slightly bigger than Galway that have taken the mantle and really solved their problems. I've been looking at Montpellier recently. In 2000, the population of that area was about 300,000 people, and they saw that they were at peak traffic and that their population was rapidly growing. And they decided to develop a really sustainable public model. They now have 4 tram lines. They have dedicated bus lanes. They have buses and cycle schemes and cycle pathways. Their population is now at about 420,000, but it is a city that is actively using their public transport. In 2019, they reduced the fares on public transport for children, for seniors and students, and in 2023, they eliminated all fares. So they are creating an attraction. If public transport is available, it's functioning, it's reliable, it's coming on time, it's frequent, if it's more attractive than being in your own car, people will get out of their cars. 80% of cars coming into Galway City have one person in their car. Those are people who, if they are given an attractive alternative, a GLUIS, priority bus lanes, places to park and ride, they will get out of their cars if it's more attractive than being in their private vehicles.
Your time is up there, Dr. Sheila Garrity. We're moving on now to Meaja Nick Inlake, who is the Social Democrats candidate in the Galway West by-election. Meaja, your time starts now.
Can it start when I start my time?
Okay.
Thank you.
Your time starts now.
Gormagri Cholina, and it's really great to be here, and I really want to thank John, and I want to thank Galway Commuter Coalition and everyone who's come together to make this night possible. For too long, we've had transport solutions and traffic solutions that, when they are put forward by leaders in the community, by politicians, often we see different transport users pitted against each other, of cars versus bikes versus buses. And it leaves us in a situation where if you are in favour of something like GLUIS or Bus Connects, that a lot of people feel like it means that they will be they'll be on the back foot because of it. We know that's not true. And we need leadership and ambition that shows that if you can get people on a bus, those who do have to use their cars, and there'll always be people who, say, from the depths of Connemara, where I'm from, may still need to use their car to get into town, that they have an option that is viable, and that means that they are not set behind hordes and hordes of traffic as they are right now. Like, I am a 424 soldier. I have been on that bus. I've got on that bus at 6 a.m. to be in Galway City for 9. You would be quicker coming from Dublin. And that is a whole community west of the city that's not being served. And it's not just the west of the city. I see it knocking on doors in Knocknacar. I see it knocking on doors in Ballyban. People are being left behind. We have solutions. We have shovel-ready solutions. We need the funding to come through for Bus Connects. We need leadership on all of these things. We need GLUIS to actually become a reality and not just a feasibility study. And we need to really put our money where our mouth is when it comes to transport solutions in this city and in this county. Because if we don't, we're going to reach peak congestion in 2030, and we will be locked into more decades of traffic. Thanks.
And on time as well, that's Meaja Nick Inlake, the Social Democrats candidate in the Galway West by-election. Moving on to Sinn Féin's candidate in the Galway West by-election, Mark Lohan. Your time starts now.
Gurmagat and Gurmagi Gakarja. I'm delighted to be here, and thank you to the organisers for putting this event together. Transport chaos across Galway is familiar to every one of us because we sit in it every day, and we're reminded this week of the high cost of fuel and how unaffordable everything is, and it only adds to our angst and frustration on it. I welcome the ring road being approved for planning. We now have to get into the stage of seeing if it's going into the courts, and then of course we will be dealing with the cost and the construction of it and everything that comes from that. But it's part of the solution, and it allows us to move on now to some of the other parts that we need to address. And tonight's meeting I look on as a workshop. I look forward to hearing from you, hearing your input, and to learning as well. But some of my thoughts on it will be, we need to make cycling safe. I cycle into town, but I'm afraid to cycle once I get into the city centre. I tie up my bike and walk. So cycling has to be safe, and pedestrian access has to be safe. The Bus Connects now can be rolled out, and it needs to be rolled out as a priority so that we can have proper bus service across our city. We have some great examples like the 409 that comes down from Roscam and gets into town in 10 minutes, and it has a great app. And then we have other examples like the 10, 11 and 12 that are a nightmare and are run past people without them being there. The Gluas is a long-term solution and one that I'm excited about. It's an opportunity for us to have sustainable development, to look at something that can grow our city, particularly to the east or more in Clare Galway. And that's an exciting thing, a prospect for us to plan. The emerging routes now need to be explored so that we can make it a reality. Our regional train system, we need the double track to get to Ormore. We should have a stop at Roscam. There's hundreds and thousands of people will be able to walk and cycle there. So these are part of the solutions I'd like to see. I look forward to hearing tonight more about it. The regional buses that were mentioned, we need rural double-deckers, and the TransLink, which is a great local bus that I use in Menlo, needs to have a tap so that we can have more ridership on it. Gurmagi.
Mark Lohan, Sinn Féin. Moving on now to independent councillor and candidate in the Galway by-election, Thomas Welby. Your 2 minutes will start now.
Thank you. I'm a councillor with 22 years experience. I'm a full-time politician, and prior to that I was a businessman for 30 years. So I have vast experience in both business and the political world. I'm contesting this election as I feel Galway region has been overlooked for far too long, and we should be a credible counterbalance to the east, where we're dramatically failing in relation to that. My top three priorities: housing, traffic solutions and the upgrade. I am fully supportive of the N6. And I'm the most westerly rural candidate in this constituency. I know well that the N6 is not going to cure all the problems. It's not the silver bullet in relation to what we need, but there are other issues that comes along with it. I would sincerely hope that there is not going to be a legal challenge, but unfortunately I expect that there will be. I am open to discussions with any other projects, but what I find in Galway is we float a project, we get halfway in it, we think we have a better project, and we go after that. We're constantly moving. That's what I see. We have to do a project, finalise a project, and get it done and see will it work. In country, people say we don't have buses, but I've been canvassing in the city, up in Circular Road, up in Fawnabui. People have to walk 20 minutes for buses. The bus system in Galway doesn't work either. So we should have dedicated bus lanes in relation to it. One thing I believe that we should have, like we have a county development plan every 6 years, we should have a review of our bus routes every 2 to 3 years. I mean, the buses in Galway City shouldn't just be for Galway City. They should be for the county as well. We're all Galwegians here. The bus service from Galway City should be going out to Barn. It should be going out to Mycullen. It should be going out to Clare Galway, rather than a full bus coming in. So, I mean, what I'm here to listen. But I think we need to get at least one project finished, rather than be dealing with 5 or 6 and nothing done. Yeah,
independent councillor and candidate in the Galway by-election, Thomas Welby. Thank you for joining us at the hustings. Now we're going to move over now to the Mayor of Galway City and independent councillor Mike Hubbard. And Mike, your 2 minutes will start now.
Good John. Good evening, everybody. Sorry for the delay getting here this evening. A lot of my colleagues have spoken on the issues we see in Galway. And what I see in Galway is we're well known across the world as the city of culture and of arts, but we're also known as the city of traffic, and we have to that's the reality we all face. And I welcome too the ring road being announced recently, but as Mark has said, it's not the silver bullet. We have to look at other solutions, and we can't wait and waste more time on delaying and bus connects, the cross city link, John, improving our cycling network. And again, it's been said, there's no point in having cycle lanes across the city unless they're safe and reliable. Same with bus services. The R336 buses come from Connemara, going from east to west of Galway City and back and forth. Unless the service is safe and reliable, people won't use it. And we heard this new phrase in the last couple of years, the ghost bus. People are going waiting in bus stops and no bus turns up. Now that is a ridiculous situation. So we've got bus connects, our cross-city link bus service, and a reliable service for bus has to be a priority for the next TD incoming to work with our colleagues up there. We need to increase our rail service into Galway City from Oranmore, from Athenry, from Gort, and a stop has been set at Renmore, at Ballylahan. Absolutely. Get people the option to get into Galway City, again, safe, reliable, on time, and back out again. And I think this comes back to one solution. And whoever goes up to Dublin after this, with their 4 colleagues, I believe the next programme for government must have in that a regional office of the NTA on the West Coast. To me, that's the only solution, because we're delayed, we're behind, and we're answerable to Dublin all the time. So let's get a regional office here on the West Coast to answer for Galway once and for all. With that, we have people locally, with local knowledge, who know the local challenges, and then come up with local solutions. Thanks, John.
And that's Mayor of Galway City and Independent Councillor Mike Hubbard, and in time on that as well. Just to point out and to say to you, Orla Nugent, the Aintu representative, can't be here tonight because she's having a meeting in Knocknacarra. Fine Gael Senator Sean Kine, I believe, indicated he would be here, so if he does come, we'll allow him to join the conversation as well. I do want to move on, though, this evening, and I'm going to start where we finished there with Councillor Mike Hubbard. We've already, and a few of you, the majority have highlighted the ring road. We'll park that there because we don't know, as Councillor Welby said, whether or not that will be challenged in the courts. But what that does give us an option for now is what's next for Galway, because we know that the city now has its transport strategy, the Metropolitan Area Plan. For you, Councillor Hubbard, what do you want to see in that vein in 90 seconds, please?
Thanks, Sean. I think we need to proceed with the Bus Connect system, and thankfully the Dublin Road didn't have a JR, which was very, very welcome. That can proceed. We get the Cross City Link and the Bus Connects in place, we'll see a 50% increase in bus services across Galway, which is going to be crucial. But again, they can't be delayed in traffic. And again,
is that enough?
I see no, it's not enough. It's never enough. I see Brendan here and little Brendan. I was part of a few councillors at the time who approved to go forward with a feasibility study on Glewis, and rightly so. When you put in the network of bus services, when you put in the infrastructure in place, the next stage then with the Metropolitan Plan is bring forward the Glewis in years to come, of course. You always have to keep moving forward. You can't stop and say that's enough ever. And that's been the problem, I think, for the last couple of decades in Galway. We put all our eggs in one basket, and now here we are now.
Are councillors not to blame for that in the city?
Everyone's to blame.
Included. Absolutely.
I told that on radio. Are we to blame? We've put forward many motions and plans. I'll give you an example, John. I talk about small things now. I talk about councillors to blame. I proposed motions, I looked at it this morning, carpooling in Galway City. Someone mentioned there 1 or 2 passengers per car in Galway. Carpooling put forward as a motion by myself. Free public transport on bank holidays and on festivals like St Patrick's Weekends, the parades in Galway, and free public transport, which my former colleague Claire Connolly, to be fair, led through the chamber, which I second many a motion. And most of those motions failed to get the political will power at the council chamber to be backed. So now, if we're going to be realistic about making small changes first and foremost before we get the big bypass in and so on, we need the political will to be people who are on the ground, who are dealing with this on a daily basis, who are sitting in traffic and staring at the same traffic every single day. The bus lanes are empty most of the time, and yet, as I think Sheila said, most cars have one person in them.
Yeah.
If we can allow carpooling in the bus lanes, free public transport, that's a start for now.
We'll come back to you. I want to go to the same question to Councillor Thomas Welby. In terms of where we go to now with the Metropolitan Area Plan, what are your priorities?
Well, I've already said it, John, in relation to it. I think we should have a statutory process of the buses, like we do with the county development plan. We should have a situation that every 3 years, 2 to 3 years, people should know that there's a plan coming up. There can be involvement with the community. They can make presentations. Look, there's a state.
And how will you, being a TD, help in that regard? Can you not do that at the council level?
No,
I understand you're the county, but
but there's no statutory situation. I mean, the bus routes that are in Galway are set in stone for years. Okay, there's estates now that have been built, huge estates, and no bus service to it. What we should have is a situation that people should know that we have a bus service here. We know we can extend it to a point, and we know that in at least 2 to 3 years we can say, well, okay, if that's working right, or there's another estate built somewhere else, we extend the services. I mean, people are saying to me that they.
And how will you achieve that as a TD? Can you tell me?
Well, I'd call for look for that. I mean, there's no. When was the review done on the buses last? As I say, I'm calling for the bus service from Galway City to serve Barna. Media was saying there the bus comes in Barna, it's full. So if the city service was going out to Barna or out to Mycullen or out to Clare Galway, which is slightly longer, it's only about 6 minutes from the last stop out to Barna. And if that bus was going out there, then the bus that's coming in from Connemara won't be needed. And if it's full, there's no people left behind. We're either going to be serious about buses or we're not. And I think that, I still believe, I genuinely believe, people won't agree with me, I genuinely believe we need the N6 because we are always going to have cars. And
You've made that point. Can you pass it on there to Sinn Féin representative for the Galway West by-election, Mark Lohan? Same question to you. What is your priorities when it comes to the Galway Area Metropolitan Plan?
The full implementation, John, of Bus Connects is important, and to begin rolling that out, it's put off to 2027 now, but it's important that goes out. Also, with the regional buses, we in Sinn Féin did a survey on the 424, the South Connemara bus, and the amount of people waiting at bus stops, and because the capacity is too much for the amount of buses on it. So we discussed it with the NTA. The NTA said it's double-decker, rural double-deckers, which are a special type of rural bus. They have to have a special suspension. They're not the ones we have around town because of the journeys they're doing, the roads they're going on. There is a plan in place that they've come back to Mairead Farrell and said there's a plan in place for 20 rural double-deckers. Now, a plan in place is fine, but the priority and the pressure needs to be put on them that plan becomes a reality. They need
how will Sinn Féin ensure that?
Well, by putting direct by what we've done already with finding that you need 6 rural double deckers on the 424 to feed the proper capacity and to service people who live in South Connemara. So we've already found out what the need is. NTA have said that they have it in the pipeline, and now the pressure must be put on them to follow through and ensure those buses are delivered. But the same is for the 419 in North Connemara. They need the double deckers as well. So look, buses are a short-term solution, and I think they're a terrific solution because they can happen quickly. And I see some neighbours from Menlo down in the audience there. Just about 2 years ago, we got the Rural Link. It's a small bus. It comes from Tuam into the cathedral. It's a long, windy route. We're the last 2 stops, but it's been life-changing for people in Menlo. People can go in and get their pension.
You're thanking government for that one.
I do. I recognise that it was done.
Okay.
If an idea is a good idea, we support it.
That's Mark Lohan, Sinn Féin. I need to move on to Meaja Nick Inlake, who is the Social Democrats representative. What's your priority for the metropolitan plan for the city, Meaja?
Yeah, so when it comes to the city, I think the obvious thing for anyone in this room is that we have several Bus Connect projects that have cleared planning, that do not have a judicial review against them. A little bit of echo. They should be done. Funding should be brought through. The county or the city council and the NTA need to be working on getting that through. As a TD, you are limited in what you can do directly on that, except acting as a bridge between those two bodies and lobbying hard when it comes to the NTA, when it comes to the council, and when it comes to the Department of Transport.
Are there too many bodies?
I think they each have a role. I think all of them have flaws and advantages to them, but I think it's important to recognise that when we have national statutory bodies, we're also able to go, you did this in Dublin, you did this in Cork. Why can't you do it in Galway, and why haven't you done it in Galway?
Do the Social Democrats have any red lines when it comes to those sort of plans for Galway City in particular?
Well, for me, a red line would definitely be around the implementation of Bus Connects. This needs to happen. It makes sense. It will improve people's lives. It will improve traffic and congestion. And it is a clear solution to the problems we're facing. It is, like, in a world where we're searching for a silver bullet on this issue, it is your fast, implementable silver bullet to cut off peak congestion before it happens.
Do you have concerns about the bridge and the buses going over the bridge and cutting it off from traffic?
Yes, absolutely. I think when it comes to traffic solutions, and particularly around bridges or any kind of bottlenecks, that needs to be looked at on an engineering level. However, they do need to be able to cross bridges in town, and they do need to be able to be given priority when it comes to traffic in town.
Okay. I want to move on to independent candidate Dr. Sheila Garrity. Same question for you. What is your priority when it comes to the metropolitan area plan for the city?
My priority is the GLUIS, and I won't apologize for that. I'm a big proponent of the GLUIS, and I actually think we need to be more ambitious. So we need to decide what's the first route, and I'm going to say that, the first route, the cross-city route from Knocknacar to Oranmore, and what's the direction it's going to take, where is it going to flow through. I think we need to think about a Moycullen looping through the city and up to Clare Galway. There's no city in the world that regrets advancing light rail and that type of public transportation. Public transportation has to be more attractive than being in your own car in order to get people to shift from that mode of transportation.
How would you deliver those types of things as an independent TD? Would you go into government?
Would I go into government? It would depend on what the makeup of that government is. But as an independent
current
TD,
makeup after the by-election.
no, I would not. I would not be supporting a Fianna Fáil or a Fine Gael government
So
or
how are
a
you going to
combination
deliver
of that.
it after this by-election?
By being a thorn in the side of the sitting government, by reminding them that if we don't reduce our carbon emissions, we'll be paying heavy fines to Europe for that. Let's take that money, instead of spending it in Europe in fines, let's spend it in Galway City in reducing our carbon emissions and creating a healthier, more sustainable, more productive city for the people of Galway.
So promoting GLUIS would be one of your red lines in this by-election. How far do you want to see that achieved in the next 3 to 4 years?
I'd like to see us decide on what the route is. I'd like to see a costing of it, and I'd like to see, progressing it, John.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to go over now to Denman Rook, who is People Before Profits candidate in this Galway West by-election. Same for you. City plan for transport. What are your priorities?
Yeah, priorities would be dedicated bus lanes, the Glewis project, dedicated cycle lanes, like anything that
Can you give more detail? Like, which areas in particular?
Yeah, I mean, the one down, Old Dublin Road, I would like to see that finished. I very much support any of the kind of active travel cycling infrastructure. I think it's a necessity for accessibility as well. As someone who's a father of a 2-year-old, when my child was born, I immediately realized the complications that came with accessibility through our streets. So making sure that we're making it accessible, but also getting dedicated bus lanes again, because it's public transport that we have already. Like, I obviously very much support the Glewis project, but that's going to be a few years before that's implemented. If we get dedicated bus lanes in right now, we can immediately get people, encourage them out of their cars and using faster, more attractive infrastructure like some of the other.
The same question I gave Misha. Do you have any concerns with the current plans with Bus Connects?
So like I had mentioned earlier, I had concerns around them trying to remove some stops in Merview. So I would have organized with my community to stop them from removing bus stops. I think we should be, adding more bus stops, if anything, especially when it comes to, rural Galway. But we should be encouraging, making it more accessible, making sure that that it's convenient to go to a bus stop with the covering of our bus stops.
Yep, Damon, thank you. That's Damon Rook of People for Profit. We're joined now by Niall Murphy of the Green Party. What's your key priority when it comes to the Galway City Metropolitan Plan?
Well, in the Metropolitan Plan, I mean, a lot of it's what was in the Galway Transport Strategy, and the projects being referred to by the other speakers already, like the Dublin Road and the new bus timetable. They're the things that are ready to go, but they've both been delayed. And they've been delayed. In January, the City Tribune reported that the NTA said of the Dublin Road project, which has planning permission, they said we'll have to see if we progress with that. Recently, Roger O'Gorman asked a parliamentary question on the bus timetable for Galway, and it was 2027 or 2028, subject to funding. So there's 2 ready-to-go projects, and they haven't said there's going to be any money. And the real cause of that is, in the previous government, with the Greens in there was a 2-to-1 spending ratio on public transport and active travel versus roads. That ratio's gone away now, so all the funding for public transport has dried up. In 2023, there was a new bus route somewhere in the country every week for a year. In 2026, the NTF said no new bus routes. We've even got new physical buses in Galway, but they don't reflect new bus routes. So it's the funding has been cut off. So my first priority in the Dáil would be to call out that funding.
How can you do that as only the second Green Party TD in the Dáil?
Well, that's as I said. Some of the information I just gave you was achieved by Roger O'Gorman being able to ask questions of the Dáil to get that information.
Okay, yeah. We're going to move on now. That's Niall Murphy of the Green Party. We're going to move on now to Independent Ireland councillor and candidate in the Galway West by-election, Noel Thomas. What is your key priority when it comes to that metropolitan area plan?
Well, John, it's got to be public transport, and whether that be buses or Glewis, whichever one can be made happen. That's what needs to happen, and needs to happen as quickly as possible. I myself would definitely have a preference, wherever possible, for a Glewis type system, light rail type system, because there's no doubt about it, but it is the most efficient way to move vast numbers of people around any city, and that's been shown all over the world. The Dublin Road, look at Bus Connects. A couple of people have said it here already. I mean, it's a no-brainer. We need to have bus lanes each side of the road.
Do you have concerns with the bridge situation and giving priority to buses on the bridge?
I have no concerns about it. I mean, there should be, of course. There should have been...
Even if it means traffic can't go across the same bridge.
Well, why wouldn't traffic be able to go across the same bridge? What I always said from day one was I couldn't understand why there wasn't more concentration. I suppose when they were designing the ring road as well, that there wasn't an awful lot more concentration on providing adequate public transport corridors along with that as well. I have a big concern, John, in relation to the Bus Connects route on the old Dublin Road, to be honest with you, and that is that it's the design of the junctions again. And we all say that, that the bus lanes would be good for freeing up the traffic, but what's going to happen
How would you fix
there,
that? How would you fix that?
You'd have to change the design of the junctions. That's all that needs to be done. They just need to be widened, given a bit more scope.
Is that an engineer's job rather than the TD's job, though?
It's an engineer's job, but I mean, they're going to have to get pressure from a TD or something to make them do that, because they've seemed very reluctant to do it.
And I know your colleagues in Ireland pushing on that pressure.
They will be, yes. I'm sure they will be. There's no doubt about that.
So why do we need you to do that as well?
I've already spoke to them about this, John, and I'm sure you will be hearing it in the Dáil pretty soon, because that's on the agenda for them as soon as they get a slot for that. But I mean, John, it's an easy fix, like, because I mean, what's going to happen there is it's going to cause congestion actually with people trying to get in and out. These junctions were designed by computer for perfect driving. People don't drive perfectly. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's Independent Ireland Councillor Noel Thomas, and we're also joined now by Labour Councillor for the city, Helen Ogbu, who's the candidate in the Galway West by-election. Same one for you, Helen. What is your priority when it comes to the metropolitan area plan for Galway City?
Thank you so much, John. One issue or one proposition people haven't mentioned is around a right to work, remote work. And that is a proposal which the Labour Party has actually put in, and which, if we look at it, it actually would help reduce gridlock and give people a legal right to work at home. We can take us back 6 years ago during COVID. A lot of us worked from home. There was no traffic congestion. And we can bring that back. People who have a right, who can work from home, should be given the right to work from home.
It doesn't work for every profession, though. Do you know to what degree or what percentage it will help Galway City?
Well, I think it's going to help Galway.
Do you have figures in that regard?
I can't specify the number, but there are a lot of people who do admin work, who do IT work. They can work from home, and it would also help with the cost of living. Because
so would you be making that compulsory then, remote working, or what is the actual provision you're talking about there?
Well, it's not making it compulsory, but it's giving people the right to actually apply and work from home.
Had Minister Alan Dillon already announced that in recent weeks, no?
Well, I don't think so, but I
remember interviewing him in relation to that.
Okay, my party has been pushing for that, and well, all the other TDs didn't actually support that motion, the proposal, but that is something we will be pushing for. And alongside the GLUAS, the light rail, even before the election was called, I was involved with GLUAS and discussing with them, presenting some of their issues to the City Council and trying to help push for us to start planning. And I think it's something I will push for. Thank you.
Helen Ogbu, Labour Councillor. We're joined now by Fianna Fáil Councillor Killian Kane, who's the candidate in the Galway West by-election. What is your priority for the Metropolitan Area Plan, Killian?
Well, look, John, I suppose as many people have outlined, there's a lot of good work already done on some key issues. So, for example, bus connects. We have to work on what already has started in flow. I think the likes of Lewis, we need to push on even more in the years to come. But we have to push on with what already has work delivered. And I think the fact that we have, touch wood,
that's
all
the point that we
well,
haven't seen to deliver because it's all been on pause. Because
it's all been on pause. This is the point. We need to move on.
Will another government TD help that situation?
Well, I think at
when
the
we
end
see
of the
some
day,
other younger ones like Albert Dole and others coming out against your party today.
Well, I think everyone can talk about it, but at the end of the day, it'll be government that will action on it. And I think you need somebody who's going to be there to try and advocate for it. I think going back to what you said earlier about the Quincentennial Bridge,
what more will
they
you
have
do
to
that
go
John
hand in
Connolly
hand.
won't do? What more will you do that John?
Well, I
Connolly
suppose
won't
it's
do?
another voice that will put on the Galway jersey in government, and that's the reality of it. And I think that's the reality about it. When you look at Galway Bus Connects, though, there is room for improvement. I think there's simple things as well, by the way, that we don't need to reinvent the wheel on this. Like, one thing that I can't understand is the ticketing system in Galway still requires you to go to the bus driver. It delays every bus stop in the city. You look at if any of us
Do
that
you want
went
to see
Dublin,
a tap-on bus?
I cannot understand why the NTA have not sanctioned that in terms of bus
Fianna
airing
Fáil
outside
costed
Dublin.
that? How much that would cost to upgrade the buses?
It's not that big of a cost. I haven't costed it now personally myself.
How do you know it's not that big if you haven't costed it?
Because bus air, when you look at the problem is that bus airing haven't been licensed. I've tried to look at this before. It's a matter of fact that Dublin Bus have rolled it out. When you look at the efficiency, and I'm not going to get into specifics of time on it, but time is saving. We're all talking about getting new buses. We're talking about getting more staff, but the reality is we need to increase efficiency because we can use less buses to do the same amount of work.
I want to go back over to where we started there again and go to Mayor of Galway City, Independent Councillor Mike Hubbard. We're going to move on to talk about Light Rail, the GLUAS project. How much support are you willing to put behind that?
It has my full support, John, it always has. As I said on my initial contribution, that when it came before the councillors to back the idea of a feasibility study, I was one of a few at the time who backed that. I've met the gentleman here many times and I've always given my full support. As a councillor for the last number of years, as mayor, I've given my full support. I think, as I said to you earlier on, we can't just stand still and say, no, clap our hands, clap yourself in the back, we've got planning permission for a ring road. Absolutely not. My colleagues have all mentioned that bus connections and so on, and the GLUAS is a major part of that as well. We need to keep Galway moving because when you look at our population growth over the next couple of years, we're going to keep having to move forward with new ideas and new ways to get people across the city, from the outskirts into the city and so on. And again,
How can
Glúis
you
will-
guarantee, as a new TD for Galway West, to the people in this room here, that we're going to see delivery on a Glúis sign very promptly when we've been waiting the guts of 20 to 33 years for a ring road?
Well, it goes back to political will, John. So I said earlier on, that people at local level, people hadn't the political will or foresight to say, let's try things on a trial period. That's what this proposals were around, carpooling and stuff like that. Political will is a big part of this. And I certainly tell you, and you ask my commitment, 100% political will you'll have from me. Going to Dublin, saying Glúis must be part of the future for Galway. And as you asked me, your next question I'm sure is going to be, as independent, how do you force that?
Will you go into government?
I'll stand firm. Will they go into government at the moment? Absolutely not. But
So how are you going to enforce it?
well, the government's numbers are falling by the minute, and they're going to need an independent support anytime soon, I'd say. And if they can deliver support, delivery for Galway, and the Glúis, and I'd imagine the next programme for government will be key, that the Glúis will have to be on the agenda, front and centre, because the ring road will probably be started by then, and the next programme for government, after the next general election, the Glúis, whoever's in Dáil Éireann, must ensure that Glúis is front and centre in the government programme for government.
Going now to independent councillor Thomas Welby. Glúis, how much support are you willing to put behind that?
I would support Glúis, but I say again, I fully support the N6 because where I
I'm
come
asking
from.
about Glúis, though.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
asking about
John,
Glúis.
where I come from, John, I'm as the most westerly candidate, and all the people use cars, unfortunately, and they have to go through the
Well,
city.
if you don't
and
want to talk about Glúis, I will move
I
on
will.
to the next person.
I will support the Glúis, but I'm saying initially that we need. I want to see the N6 progress
Well, it's been
because
approved,
here
so
we
let's talk about the
but it's
Glúis.
been approved, but it hasn't been constructed, and that's the reality.
Okay.
And I just want to make
So you
one
want
point.
to see the N6 project completed? You want to not do
No,
bus
no.
connects, not do Glúis, not do
What I
anything
want
else
to
until
see-
the N6 is built in the next 7 years.
What I want to see is I want the N6 to start proceedings. And when we know that it's a project, it's not a project yet. I mean, I've been around long enough.
So you want to
to
wait
know-
until all the legal challenges are quashed, and then you can think of things like Glúis.
Well, I'd be
Is that
hoping.
what you're saying?
I would be hoping that there be no legal challenge, but
Yeah.
okay, and that's the reality.
So you're waiting
I
until
mean,
the boots are
what
on
I
the
think-
ground
I think
and
we have a
shovels in the
situ-
ground before you give any commitment.
No,
one
no,
way or
I'm
the
not
other
saying
towards
shovels in the
Glúis.
ground. If we have a legal situation that it's going to go ahead, and if
Okay.
I can see a determination that it's going to go ahead and that it needs funding, I will
Have you read
support.
the Glúis feasibility study? Do you know
I,
anything
well, I
about the
have.
Glúis?
Yes, I have. But
Why
I'm
aren't you
just
talking
saying
about
to you,
it?
it's a case that I would look at every aspect in relation to it. But I mean, the N6 is not just a standalone. It's not just the infrastructure of the N6. There's
I'm
a
asking you
lot
about
of
the Glúis. I
elements.
don't know how many times I can say that.
John,
We'll move on if you don't answer.
I
anything
will.
about Glúis.
I support the Glúis when the N6 is an actual project.
Right, we're going to move on now to Sinn Féin candidate Mark Lohan. Mark, Glúis, or are you going to talk about something else?
No, I'm happy to talk about the Glúis. I see Brendan Holland over there, and he's been talking to me about it for a long time and has been a long-time advocate of this project. The Glúis makes sense. A light rail for Galway City, for a city that we know is going to grow and expand and will have to expand with the increase in population. When we eventually get a government that will facilitate the building of housing, both public, affordable and private, we are going to need the infrastructure, the transport infrastructure for that housing. Glúis is a perfect solution for that. I would like to see it.
Is it a red line for Sinn Féin if they get into government?
Absolutely, it would be something that I would make a red line and would progress, and I'm sure my
Would
colleague.
it be a red line for your party, not you, your party?
Well, yes, it
I
would
haven't
be.
seen it
I
in
would
the
say.
documents that it's a red line for them.
Well, I would make it a priority there. So, but it's the concept of Glúis. I think we're in the most exciting time for Glúis now because it's not controversial for us. We have broad support for it here at varying degrees. The key now is to get the emerging routes approved, get it into the pre-planning stage or the planning stage, and progress it once we get political will. And you're right, John. You look at the ring road and the bypass and all the incarnations it had, and we're still waiting. Over the next few weeks, we'll see whether
How
we'll,
are you sure
we'll
it doesn't
progress or
happen for
not.
Glúis, though? Will you make it a critical piece of infrastructure like government are about to do with the ring road?
Yeah, I think it has to be critical. And if we are going to grow this city,
Will
it's
you
not
make it that's a yes or no?
Yeah,
will you?
yes, I will.
okay.
And it's not just the Glúis. We also need to have the cycle lanes, the good pedestrian access as we grow our city, and
we'll get on to them.
the bus routes as well on top of it.
Yeah.
It's all part of an integrated transport plan.
We will get on to them. Mark Lohan of Sinn Féin, thank you for that. Media Nick Inlake, the Social Democrats representative. Glúis.
Look back on the archives of the Irish Times. It makes sense, and we know it makes sense because it has worked in other cities in Ireland, it has worked in other cities in Europe. It is something that would improve people's lives in Galway, it would reduce traffic and congestion, and if we do not start moving towards it now, we will never get there.
How will the Social Democrats ensure that it is delivered in the next while? Because you are an opposition party at present.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is about giving that pressure in the Dáil, raising it with the minister when it comes to oral questions, raising it in QPL, raising it as a topical issue, and
is it a red line for you?
Harrying
Should
the NTA.
Soc Dems get into government in the future? Lewis for Galway?
I can't speak to programme for government negotiations that may happen in 3 or 4 years. But for me, it is a very important piece of work that needs to happen in Galway if we're to have a long-term traffic solution here.
Okay. And in terms of what the Soc Dems are doing for public transport, do you have actually in your manifesto what percentage of transport spending will go to? Like, do you have the funds to deliver something like Lewis for Galway?
I can't speak to the percentage that's in the manifesto. I will say that public transport has always been a high priority for us. Our transport spokesperson Jennifer Whitmore has been particularly active on
Is
this.
it a case of copy and paste from the Greens, is it?
I mean, I think we like to outflank them on the Green side, actually.
Okay.
And that was reflected in the general election manifestos.
Fair enough. That's Meija Nick Inlake, who is the Soc Dem rep for the Galway West by-election. We're going to move on now to Dr. Sheila Garrity, who's an independent in this. For yourself, you said already how important Lewis is for you, but as I made the point to you, how are you going to ensure it, or what are you going to do to see it progress as an independent?
Well, as I said, John, be a thorn in the side of the government. Keep putting the pressure on. I was speaking with Brendan earlier, Brendan Holland. I was in this building with Brendan probably 18 or 20 years ago for the first public meeting on the Glewis, and I was a supporter of it then, and I'm still a supporter of it. Having the congestion that the people of Galway are experiencing is affecting us on so many levels. It's affecting our health. It's affecting our quality of life. It's an economic depressant on the region of
appreciate all
Galway.
that, but how will you get action? And I'll give you one example.
Okay.
So Catherine Connolly was the independent TD for Galway West, and we saw how long she was in government for, whether that be as a councillor, and then when she eventually did get into government. But we've been waiting 20 years for Park and Ride, and it's only getting off the ground now. How can you actually make any difference as a TD, an independent TD, if you don't go into government?
If I don't go into government, well, I won't go into government in the present makeup. To
So
be continuing,
are you the best choice to see Lewis being progressed in the next round?
I think I am. I think I'm not beholden to party policies or vested interests. I can speak on behalf of the people of Galway West fully and wholeheartedly.
How ambitious do you want to see Lewis? Do you want to see it going east to west, or do you want to also see a northern line? How ambitious do you want
Well,
the
I've
project
already
to
said
be?
that this evening. I'd like to see that I'd like to see several lines. If we look across
Several?
several. I'd like to see the Moycullen to Clare Galway line looping through the city. I'd like to see the cross city line that's already been talked about. And if I was to support
Is that all pie in the sky stuff, though?
it wasn't pie in the sky when they talked about the Lewis. It wasn't pie in the sky in Montpellier when they've reduced public car use by over 50% in the last 20 years. Cities that embrace light rail see the city transformed in a matter of a few years of it starting.
That's independent Dr. Sheila Garrity. We're moving on now to Denman Rook of People for Profit. The Glewis sign, how significant or important?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's a broader kind of ideological look on how we look at developing our cities. It's climate, conscious. It's getting people out of our cars. It affects emissions. It also allows our city to breathe and grow. And I think, kind of to the kind of questions earlier of like the kind of problems of looking at the stalling or like the ring road. So many of our government kind of TDs or politicians have held things like the Glewis and active travel hostage to the ring road. And we need TDs.
People voted for them in, though, with respect.
Sure. I mean, yeah, we've done that for 100 years. Look where it's got us, So I think we need to do something different, and we need someone who's willing to. And
is it a red line for you, Lewis? Is it a red line?
Well, I think the broader idea of public infrastructure that serves people that is climate conscious, yes. Like I would hope it would be a part of a broader, left government platform that I would be advocating for.
And would you have the money in the coffers to give to something like a Glewis? Because we know you like to do a lot of welfare spending in People for Profit.
Sure, but we can also it's about where you tax. There's a lot of wealth being generated by and given to landlords, investment funds, multinational
companies. Would it be a free
companies.
Glewis as well, would it?
Sure, yeah, why not? You know, we need to get people out of our cars. Our climate can't, isn't going to wait for us.
Okay.
So we need to do action now.
Denman Rook, the People for Profit candidate, thanks for joining us. Over now to Niall Murphy of the Greens, the Gluas. How important, Niall?
Very important, and as I explained it before, the feasibility study that happened because Eamon Ryan got that through, and I think
with the support of his colleagues in Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil.
Oh yeah, yes, which made it all the more difficult. It was very tricky to get through because what would happen now if it tried to be pushed through, you would have politicians who are going to say, well, yes, we want the Gluas, but, and the thing that comes after the but could be the ring road or something else. Whereas the Greens, I don't think will be caught out on that.
You were on a panel there with Sean Kine last week, and he said, now we can look at the light rail.
Oh yeah, but if there was any question of light rail blocking the ring road, he would have flipped, and so would anyone in government, and that's where the Greens. Well, but the other key point about the ring road is, and I think, and many people, especially when I'm knocking on doors, people aren't aware of this. In Galway, a group of volunteers, and many of them here, and huge credit to them for the work they've done over the years. But in most cities, it would be the city itself that is pushing a plan like the Gluas. In Galway, it's quite unique. Well, I can't say what a red line would be on something specifically in Galway, but the 2-to-1 spending on public transport would be a red line, and getting the funding there will be a big part of making sure public transport projects happen.
And how ambitious do you want to see the Gluas? Do you want several lines spreading out in the city centre?
I would love to be in a situation where that was if we're asking that question, we've already gotten past making sure that it actually really happens.
Is that
well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it doesn't matter. We have to do what we can do first. But sorry, I'd like to finish my point about the group of volunteers. In other cities, it would be the city itself and the equivalent of the NTA pushing for light rail. In Galway, we actually need a group of volunteers to spend literally decades pushing for it with very, very little official support. And that's the real catch for the Gluas.
Niall Murphy, the Green Party, thank you. Moving on now to Independent Ireland Councillor Noel Thomas, the Gluas. How serious are you about it?
John, I've said it already tonight. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the Gluas is our light rail system in particular is the most efficient way to move large numbers of people around any city. And so that's proven right around the world.
Even if it's discommoded some people driving in their cars around the city?
Well, John, you see what will happen, I suppose, as time moves on, it's going to come down to the design. I mean, Galway City is a little bit restricted, as you know yourself, because it's a medieval city in the centre itself, which makes it difficult, narrow streets. But I think that in the future, I think the long-term view would be that I suppose you probably would end up having some of those streets would be just light rail access you'd have in it. I know some people might like to hear that, but I mean, that's the reality of it. But I think what's more important in relation to this is that even if the situation is that we can't afford now to put all this infrastructure in place, what's important is that we actually identify from now any potential corridors that could carry the likes of the Luas lines, and we need to put a line right through them to ensure that no development or anything happens in those spaces that could scupper it again in the future. It's vitally important that we do that. It's something that we've ignored doing over since the beginning of time.
Would that involve changing the CPO process to make it more like the blight laws in the UK, or what would that involve?
Well, I would say, John, look, I'll put it this way. I could say that straight away identify one area, say coming from Knocknacarra down around by the Western Distributor Road. Lots of space there on both sides of the road there. I think those are the kind of areas that you've got room to put those sort of corridors in place already and ensure that yes, of course, why not? Like, Knocknacarra is a huge area.
The plans
massive
I've seen
population.
Has it going along by the coast.
I know that, yeah. But what I'm saying, John, the bigger plans should be, in the end of the day, it should be to link the whole city. Like, Knocknacarra is getting bigger all the time. Just as I said earlier on, we've
I'm sure a lot of the greenfields in Shantla would like
future
to
development for the Ardon area as well, and that's some area we've got to concentrate on. Put the corridors in place now. I'm hearing from some of the committee members of the Gluas committee that there's a new improved means of construction these with less impact on the ground and everything else. So.
All right, Independent Ireland Councillor Noel Thomas, thank you. On now to Labour Councillor for the city, Helen Ogbu, who is the candidate at the Galway West by-election. The Gluas, how serious are you in Labour about that?
Well, very serious about it, very much in support of it. And like I said earlier, even before this by-election, I've been in support of the Gluas and have been attending the meetings, advocating for them.
How will you see it progressed?
Well, I think it's going to progress. The NTA published a feasibility study on a light rail system for Galway City in 2024. So it's looking at the east-west route from Knocknacarra to Roscommon via the city centre. And if we're talking, I'm just going back to just link it with housing. We're talking about new developments, developing community. We're talking about the Ardon is going to be the newest community we're going to be developing. And the light rail, the planned light rail would pass through Ardon, which makes it easier for people to move from their homes, the new communities.
So how
to
would
the
you
city.
as a Labour TD see it progressed with speed? How would you see it go through all those stages?
Well, I'll be supporting it. The Labour Party is in support of it. And this is something that is needed for Galway. It goes beyond party lines. It is working in tandem with the TDs that represent Galway West.
And is it a red line for you, the Gluas? To
Well,
use the party's colour?
Whatever works, and I think the people who are going to be planning it will come up with
That's
the
a yes
best
or
plan.
no? Is it a red line, the Gluas?
Well, whatever works, that will be in favor of the, it's a red line,
It's a red line.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
That's Helen Ogbu, Labour councillor for the city and candidate in the Galway by-election. Over now to Fianna Fáil councillor and candidate in this by-election, Killian Kane. Your thoughts on the Gluas?
Yeah, look, I think as everybody nearly at this stage has outlined, it has got its feasibility study. It is feasible. It's about getting it to that next stage of route selection and putting it actually on the agenda and on the map in terms of public transport.
And there's a Fianna Fáil Minister for Transport, so
There is, and I would have absolutely no problem impressing him on it.
Think he'll listen?
Well, I would hope so. He's listened in the past anytime I've asked him anything. And I suppose look at the way I would look at it. It needs to complement, and this is the thing.
So
I
how
think
quickly how quickly would you imagine he'd see the preferred routes being looked at?
well, look, I suppose we can talk about that part of it, but the part that I really
Yeah,
want
I
to talk about on
that part
this
of it.
is...
I do-
Yeah, well,
I do want
look,
to
I
talk about
suppose
that part of it.
in terms of route selection, there's no point going down that route, pardon the pun, unless we're actually serious about delivering. And I think you've mentioned it, and I've just listened to you
People want to know
previously in
what
a
they're
few
voting for
minutes.
if they're voting for you.
The critical infrastructure bill is
Okay.
something that I'm really, really passionate
Will
about.
the Gluas sign be designated as critical?
Well, I would hope
infrastructure?
so. It's ahead of a bill right now
Hope
at the
so
moment.
isn't a promise, though.
Well, it's only ahead of a bill. It has to go and actually be passed. And one thing that I am very, very much passionate about is that we cannot see every other piece of infrastructure that comes forward, including the likes of Gluas in years to come, being held up in reams and reams of bureaucracy. And I think that bill allows a path, if we're serious about it,
And
to actually
you're
deliver
in support
things.
of it, even if it impacts driving around the city?
Well, I think, as you've already said earlier, and I think a lot of people would be wise not to do this, we shouldn't pitch the ring road and public transport against each other. We should be using them as a complement. They should be going, pardon the big language, but symbiotically. They should be going together. Like, this is the reality. They can't go, because when you go blocking the Quincentillion bridges you're talking about, we need to have an alternative route and create that space in the city for public
Okay,
transport.
Fianna Fáil, Councillor Killian Kane, thank you for that contribution. I'm going to give the candidates a 2-minute reprieve now to get some water in, and they will continue on with our discussion after that.
Nice to meet you. Lachlan's my name. Chair of the Commuter Coalition. Good to meet you. This is great, yeah. I hope it's good for you guys, good for everyone, really. City holding power to campers up now, so fair play. Yeah, well, that's great anyway. I'm sorry you were delayed. I was traffic or... No, I was waiting up on the kids off. For change, it wasn't traffic. Yeah. Pretty good.
Now, if you can regain your seats there, we'll keep going. Ladies and gents, if you can all regain your seats there, we'll get going with the second half. A lot to get to.
This one's working.
Testing. Yeah.
Testing. 1 2 1 2 2 2.
Testing 1 2. Yep.
Testing. There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you can regain your seats, we're going to continue with the second half of the hustings. If you can all just take your seats there and quieten down, we're going to start with the second half of the hustings. Now, ladies and gents, we're going to restart our Galway West by-election hustings meeting here in the Park Hotel. If we can get some quiet down the back of the room there, please. Can we get some quiet down the back of the room, please? Thank you. I want to go first now to Mayor of Galway City and Independent Councillor Mike Hubbard. We're looking at Bus Connects now. What do you want to see in that vein for Galway City?
No more delays, John. I think the fact that we got the Dublin Road piece with no JR, as I said earlier, is a huge positive story. That in connection with the cross-city link, it will increase, as I said, bus services by 50% across the city, which is going to be crucial. And again, you asked the question early on of many others, would you have a concern that it would stop cars turning? I have absolutely no concern whatsoever, because you have to make public transport affordable and reliable. And if that's the case, those two things, affordable and reliable, people will use it. So the Bus Connects now cannot be delayed. And I wouldn't be agreeing to other speakers saying, let's go and see, do we get a challenge in the courts on the bypass? No, we don't. We proceed now. We keep going once we have the plan in place. We've got to get funding nationally and move on and get it done.
Does the City Council have a bit to answer in that regard in terms of the standoff between them and the HSE over the Shantla Fields?
There's the HSE are at fault here in my point of view. I'm a councillor for the area, and I see my colleague Councillor Shoig is here as well, and she's very strong on this as well. That the one thing the residents have asked, John, and us as local councillors have asked, is respect. To sit down, have a conversation and see what is the plan for the park, to get that Bus Connects piece going through the hospital grounds, what's the plan for the pitch in the park in Shantla, and it's taken months on end to get responses alone from the HSE. If that lack of respect is there for residents in the area and for local councillors, I'm not going to jump up and down and say just rubber stamp this now and move on. We've got to get respect into the conversation. It's now moving on, finally.
They would argue you need respect for lives that need that helipad.
Listen, absolutely, and we need a helipad, of course, there's no issue there, but the problem is the lack of engagement whatsoever with residents in the area, the lack of engagement with local councils in the area. Now, the director...
Are they not engaging with the executive, no?
With the executive, on a very, very slow places, very slow, for what we're told. We were told at the meeting on Monday that it's progressing to a stage now where we're going to have some presentation or some update in real time in May, which is welcome. But it shouldn't have taken a year to get this far. We should have respect from day one to speak to the residents, speak to the councillors, and move on and get this done. Because again, that's the nonsense, John, that delays like the Bus Connects.
Okay. Mayor of Galway City and Independent Councillor Mike Hubbard, thank you for that. Going on now to Fianna Fáil councillor and candidate in this by-election, Cillian Kane. Bus Connects, what can you actually see delivered now, Cillian?
Well, I think no more than what Mike has already said in relation to the Dublin Road bus corridor. it's a crucial part, and our public transport corridors are crucial because if you look at it, and I've often said this about Oranmore and indeed Clare Galway in the same situation, and it's the same with Moycullen and Barna and elsewhere. There is no point in asking somebody to sit in a bus that's either stuck in traffic in front of them or behind them, and that's the reality. And if we want to really attract people to use public transport, we have to make it a faster and a more credible alternative. And I think when you do that, it'll go hand in hand with encouraging people to use it.
Are you happy with the pace of it so far?
No, I'm not.
Do you put any
honest
blame
with
on
you.
the current government for that?
Well, I think it goes back to the issue that I referenced earlier in terms of critical infrastructure. And that's the reality. And it's the same thing with tie-in with the hospital on that. We need to get serious about things. Are we actually about building things? Or are we about constantly getting bogged down in the weeds and finding a reason not to do everything? And I think
You heard
some
though,
people might
you
like
heard,
me
you
saying
heard
that.
earlier on from Niall Murphy of the Green Party that when they were in government that they secured that funding for public transport. Has it failed under Fianna Fáil and the coalition government?
No, I wouldn't say so. And I think if you look at it in terms of rail, it was always Fianna Fáil that was pushing that. And that's the reality. And you look at Eamon O'Queeve and you look at Seamus Brennan and you look at the work that they did in their time, be it in Lewis or be it in terms of the Western Rail Corridor. And hopefully that part, the next phase of the Western Rail Corridor will continue because that's something that has to be delivered.
Okay. As an emergency meeting of Fianna Fáil TDs is currently being gathered, I'm told, on breaking news there. But anyways, we'll move on now to Helen Ogbu, who's City Councillor with Labour. And just got to give you the heads up, Killian. Helen Ogbu, in terms of the Bus Connects, where do Labour stand on this? What's your thoughts on Bus Connects in the city?
Well, for the Labour Party and personally for me, it's a priority and it's something that we need to see enhanced frequency. We need to see more bus services and also looking at some of the areas, like if we look at Oranmore, Oran Hill, Oranmore, they have issues with bus services. So the Bus Connect is going to help and it's going to improve movements and services for people as well. Another area it would be...
is it ambitious enough, Bus Connects, can I ask you?
I wouldn't say it's ambitious. It's something that is required. We shouldn't be begging for it. It's something that should be planned when we're developing our areas.
How would Labour see it progressed or pushed ahead at more speed?
Well, at this stage, we're already pushing for it and we'll continue pushing for it. It's a matter of when you don't talk about issues, then people don't hear about it. So we need to be highlighting those issues, pressing and pushing.
Do you have any solutions? Are you going to make it a critical piece of infrastructure, or what are the solutions you
Well,
you
it
put
is
forward?
a critical piece of infrastructure, and we're going to make it that, yeah.
So you want to see it designated under the government's new mechanism, a critical piece of infrastructure to allow it to bypass things like legal challenges and judicial reviews?
Well, I think we have to figure out a way to deal with judicial reviews. Sometimes that's what stalls a lot of development in Ireland and in Galway. So we need to figure out a way to deal with those judicial reviews.
And do people not have a right to object?
Well, people have a right to object, but we have to figure out a way to how we fast track those judicial reviews. Like it's a right for the people to express their concerns. But yeah.
Helen Ogbu of Labour, thank you for that. On now to Independent Ireland councillor and candidate in this by-election, Noel Thomas. Bus Connects, how much of a priority is that for you?
I think it's got to be top priority, John, to be honest with you. I mean, look at Bus Connects.
You said that a bit tonight now.
Yeah, but it makes sense. I mean, you're all, like, John, anything to do with public transport inside the city, I mean, for anyone that doesn't think that should be a priority, then they're seriously making a mistake. I mean, we can see it there, like I said, we're talking about the Dublin Road at the moment. But again, it's all down to providing a proper bus corridor. You can't have a system like we have in a lot of the city here where you get on a bus lane and you're travelling along for a while and the next thing then you're stuck back in the traffic with everybody else. That doesn't work. If you want people to use public transport, it has to be incredibly reliable, it has to be efficient, it has to be on time, as I said, and then people will use it.
Do you think Bus Connects will deliver that? Do you think it'll deliver that?
If the infrastructure is done properly, yes, of course it will. Because as I said, people are crying out for a proper means of public transport. Everybody would rather sit on a bus than be in their car, queuing in traffic in the city here. It's an absolute no-brainer. And I think that a lot of the people here have said it already tonight. That I think that the public transport system has been neglected in Galway over the last number of years, and I think it's been the lack of the ring road, say, has been used as an excuse for holding it off. Like, I don't care, even if the ring road has been built tomorrow.
How much of priority is public transport and Bus Connects for your party, Independent Ireland? Do you have it in your manifesto what you designate of the transport budget to these types of projects?
We've had conversations on this ourselves, yes, and I said we haven't any particular budget, John, because we're not in government, no. But public transport
other parties
is.
do have budgets and alternative budgets.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. We haven't got a budget on public transport here. There's no point telling you that because we don't. But
Is that good enough?
Well, I would say, John, that if we get an opportunity to show ourselves, we would produce a budget pretty quickly for it, because I think we all understand the importance of it. So I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Okay, I want to move on now. That's Noel Thomas of Independent Ireland. I want to move on to the Green Party candidate, Niall Murphy. Bus Connects, Niall. Talk us through. You were heralding Eamon Ryan earlier on. Was he the big saviour of Bus Connects as well?
Well, while he was the Minister for Transport, that's when there was enough funding for public transport, and that is the blocker for Bus Connects right now. As I mentioned earlier, it was reported in the papers in January that the NTA said they'll have to see what they do with the Dublin Road Bus Connects, and that's a project. You mentioned the critical infrastructure bill. The Dublin Road Bus Connects is a project that has planning permission, so it doesn't need the protection of the critical infrastructure bill. It just needs the funding. But on the critical infrastructure bill,
how much funding?
How much? Well, what we will commit is what we had before: 2-to-1 ratio of whatever the transport budget. 2/3 should be public transport. And once that's
how much funding does the Dublin Road Bus Connects need?
I don't have a figure for that.
Okay.
But whether it goes ahead or not, whether public transport projects in general go ahead will depend on whether public transport gets priority from the government. And right now, it's clear it's not getting priority from the government. Dart Southwest was paused. Multiple other public transport projects have been paused.
We know how much underinvestment there is in public transport in this country. Is 2-to-1 ratio, is that enough to make up for that shortfall of decades of underinvestment?
Well, anything we learned in government that you have, you can be as ambitious as you want, but you also have to be under-ambitious in order to achieve it. If we went in and said, make it a 10-to-1 ratio, it never would have happened. So 2-to-1 was achievable. Politics is about the art of possible, and we achieved what was possible when we were in government.
Do you think that's a good trade-off, 10-to-1 to 2-to-1?
Well, if we asked for 10-to-1, you'd get nothing. You'd get zero because you wouldn't be in government. So the point is, you have to ask for something that's actually okay with whoever you're negotiating with. And that's what we did in government. We did some compromises, and we achieved things, rather than asking for too much and getting nothing.
All right, that's Niall Murphy, the Green Party. On now to Denman Ruck of People Before Profit. Bus Connects, how much of a priority is it for your party?
Yeah, I think Bus Connects is, we would support it in principle. I think there are some issues with how it was implemented in various neighbourhoods, especially in Dublin. But I think in Galway, like I mentioned before, there were some issues there. But
how do we ensure that doesn't happen in Galway? Have we learned anything, or can any provisions be put in place?
I mean, I think having community, sitting with communities and making sure that they're being listened. It's like the people who use the buses. Happen? It didn't happen in Merview. Like they were trying to remove our bus, and we had to get together as a community and demand that NTA listen. We were reaching out to all our local councillors, our TDs, to just get anyone to listen to us. So I think if we had people,
so you want to see more protocols put in place and more red tape put in place to ensure that communities
just
are
talking with the communities, like making sure that the engineers and the people who are designing these are coming to our communities and knowing, like, the people want to use public transport. Like, that's the reality of it. We want frequent and accessible public transport. I would say most people would probably want it to be free. Like the idea that
how much is that going to cost?
We have it costed in our alternative budgets every year.
How much?
I don't have the number on the top of my head, but we have it costed free public transport. I would say also with Bus Connects, I would say I don't think it goes far enough with the safe segregation of cycle lanes. I would be advocating for fully segregated cycle lanes with bollards and other.
Do we have the room for that in the roads that it's
I think so.
currently planned on? Think so or no so?
I'm pretty sure. Like when I looked at the Dublin Road ones, it just involves, because right now it's just like a slight curb. Like cars can still block.
But you're not an engineer in that regard.
Yeah, I'm not an engineer.
Okay.
I'm an artist. So.
Right. Denman Ruck, People for Profit, thank you for that contribution. On now to Dr. Sheila Garrity, Independent. Bus Connects, how important?
Bus Connects is an efficient, cheap, quick way to get public transportation moving around the city. I'm very much in favour of Bus Connects. It's shovel ready. It should be going. It's interesting. Everybody here on the panel is really in favour of Bus Connects, of the GLUAS, of public transportation in general. People are here, are on council, parties have been in government, and our city's still choked by traffic. So I'm really welcoming the contributions here this evening that people are wholeheartedly behind public transportation.
Well, how
and I hope that continues.
If you get elected, how will you be more actions than words, empty promises? How will you be different?
I will continue as I said, to press for these issues, to advocate for them, to come back and sit down and meet with people in the communities across Galway, as I've been doing for the last 2 months, talking to them in small local communities about what their issues are, what their challenges are, how can I understand the local micro issues as well as the macro. Sorry, John, you can't cut me off right now. I'll pause.
For once, so what solutions do you have rather than saying you'll talk to people? Are there any sort of provisions you'd put in place to ensure that all happens?
Well, we've been talking a lot about the Dublin bus connects. The other side of the city, there's a proposed park and ride that's connecting people to a bus that's going to sit in traffic. The Western Distributors Road is choked in traffic as well. Where's the bus connects for the west side of the city? Okay. We need to be looking at all the routes where people are coming into the city. It's not one bus connects that's going to solve the problem in Galway.
Okay, that's Dr. Sheila Garrity, Independent. On now to Meja Nick Inlake, who is the Social Democrats candidate in this Galway West by-election. Bus connects for yourselves in Soc Dems. How important will it be for you in this Galway West by-election?
Well, I think it's absolutely vital to anyone who's ever knocked on a door in Galway City, and the county, in fairness, particularly when it comes to, like, people may not be aware of the actual projects that are involved with bus connects. What they are aware of is that they can't get on a reliable bus. If they get on a bus, it's in traffic, and they also see buses going past them full every morning. So, like, we need the Dublin Road tranche of it done, we need the network redesign, and we need Cross-City Link. Most of those projects are just waiting on funding. And for me, as a Soc Dem, and hopefully as the next TD for Galway West, it's about harrying and pressuring government and also calling them out on why aren't you investing in this? Because it is an investment. It will pay for itself in quality of life, in work hours.
But you will be in opposition, so you won't be able to actually give that funding yourself.
Well, for now. But it's the thing of we have people in government who are not willing to give the funding as is. So at least you have someone who is on your side and willing to go to bat for this.
Do you think it's a perfect solution, Bus Connects, in its current form?
Listen, I think any plan can be improved. I think in particular when you look at the likes of the towns that are on the kind of outer orbit of the city, say Barn, that there's no plan for extended routes there or a city bus there. That's a clear gap in the system, particularly when you're talking about people who are going all the way back to Lettermullen or back to Corna, being on the same bus as someone who is travelling 15 minutes down the road.
So should we start from scratch to allow that all in?
Absolutely not, because those plans can be improved on over time, routes can be added on over time, but only if we are willing to put our money where our mouth is and do it now.
Okay, that's Meja Nick Inlake, the Soc Dem. Moving on now to Sinn Féin's Mark Lohan. Bus Connects for Sinn Féin, how important, Mark?
Yeah, Sean, absolutely. And as I said in my opening comments, Bus Connects, the Gluas, the Ring Road, it's all part of a combination that's needed to address our gridlock and to get us moving safely and efficiently. Bus Connects is the most immediate one that can have a difference for us. It is shovel ready, but it's not going to be rolled out now till 2027 is the latest we've heard. Yeah, I'm for it, and and as other colleagues have said here, there's no one against it. It's the actual actioning of it is the issue. Now, in our submission,
how would you ensure the actioning of it?
Well,
what's your solution?
You have to keep advocating. You have to keep speaking for it. Just as this community meeting tonight is well attended about transport.
People are doing that. Are there any mechanisms you can put in place to force the hand of government?
Well, you can use the procedures in the Dáil to raise it in questions and to put pressure on the minister, which would be the job of me if I was elected as an opposition TD of the largest party of the opposition. But look, like the example I gave earlier, Mairead Farrell did a survey of the 424, engaged with the NTA. 200 people answered that survey. The NTA have said it needs rural double-deckers, and that's something they've said is in process, but we have to keep pressure on. But for the Bus Connects programme, the 9A is a 24-hour bus, and that's a great idea, a 24-hour bus for the 9A. Which will go from Capper Road to Parkmore and service people who are working in there. I'd like to see more 24-hour buses through the city, which would service and allow people to get to work.
How much does that cost?
It's not well. That would have to be factored into it as we review it. But the quality of life it would do, the cars it would take off the road, and it's not for going out, even though that's good. It can be used for that. It's to get people to and from work.
All right.
And then bus shelters and bus stops need to be included in it and ensure that they're there.
Okay, I want to move on now to Independent Councillor Thomas Welby. Bus Connects, are you going to talk about Ring Road or are you going to talk about Bus Connects?
No, I'm going to talk about Bus Connects, John. You know, and naturally I'd support Bus Connects, you know, and you need capacity, efficiency and reliability and affordability as well. You know, I mean, I know a lady that got on the bus yesterday in Uachtarard, came into Galway, it was €10. But John, you know, I'm the longest serving elected rep at this table. I've never dealt with any planning application in relation to bus corridors or anything like that. I think people have.
County.
It doesn't matter whether you're in the county or not. It's not in our. We just haven't done it. So I think people have to
So then
understand.
you don't have the experience in this regard, do you?
I don't actually have the experience in relation to a planning application in relation to a bus corridor. I'd love to have it. And I think that's back to what I said earlier on. I think we should have a statutory situation. I mean, hands up anybody here that has put in a submission to the CIE or in relation to bus routes and got a detailed report back. Can I just have a hands up, please?
Go
2,
5, 6, 7,
well,
maybe.
5. Yeah. Okay. What we should have is a system that every hand should go up. That we should have a part in this process. We should be holding them to account that where do we feel that the bus services should be going. They should be coming back to us, and there should be a draft situation, and then there should be a situation that elected politicians would have to adopt it and maybe alter it.
Can I ask
that's
you
what
what
we
you'll
think
do?
we should look at.
Can I ask you what you'll do differently in a comparison to the likes of Minister Noel Grealish, who is your colleague, or am I going too strong with that?
No, he's okay. You're not. But can I just say earlier on when I mentioned about
What do you do
statutory
different to
process?
him?
No, when I say
That's
about
the
a
question I'm
statutory,
asking you, though.
well,
What do you do different to Noel Grealish,
I'm
who's
telling you what
minister?
I'm going to do is
Your colleague.
as a statutory process. I'm not talking about just Galway. I mean, if you're a TD, you're a legislator for the whole country. I mean, if you said to me, go to Dublin.
Still waiting on the answer to that question.
Sorry, what? The
What do
question.
you do different to Minister Noel Grealish, who is your colleague? That's what I'm asking. Or am I being too strong? Is he not a colleague of yours?
He's a friend of mine, yes.
Okay.
But but you're, John, I'm coming up with my own ideas.
Okay.
I'm not beholden to anybody in relation to it. What I'm saying to you is we should have a statutory process in every large town or every large city where the people have the input into it and in relation to it. And I don't know, do you feel that's a bad idea?
I'm not saying it is or isn't. I want to
Can
stay
I
with
just
you. I want to
can
stay
I just
with you.
ask? Can I just make one point? Can I just make one point in relation to the
very briefly?
The helipad. Okay, Mike said that they weren't. Michael Cupboard said that they weren't involved in it. This is a political decision in relation to the helipad. I didn't realise.
Is it not an executive decision?
No, it's not.
No,
it's not. It's a reserve function to transfer the land from Galway City Council. Yeah, but it hasn't been brought forward to them. But I'm just saying there should be more input in relation. There should be more contact and more input with the elected reps.
Tell us where you stand on active travel, cycle lanes, walkways. Where do you stand?
Well, I met a very interesting lady in Newcastle the last day, and she said, "Well, you're a very brave man to say that you support the Greenway on your actual election literature. I support the Greenways 100%. I'd love to see them in place. I mean, I've stood at meetings and I've been berated where people want to keep bikes on national roads. I don't believe in that. I think we need. I'm 100% in favour of the Greenways. I've always supported them. It has got me in trouble on a lot of occasions, but it doesn't bother me really.
Stalled out there in Connemara, though, isn't it?
Unfortunately, the way Connemara was done initially,
should
it was done on.
Critical piece of infrastructure, should it?
Well, what happened to us, it was done under permissive access, and permissive access hasn't worked, and unfortunately, they've had to go to a CPO. And the CPO has been passed. It is going to bring it past a certain point, and I hope that the other landowners then will say, well, okay, we don't want to go down the road of the CPO. That we will engage with it. I mean,
and briefly, thoughts on active travel in the city, or do you know the city well enough?
I know the city well enough. Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, any modes of transport that's safe for people to move around the city, I think I would be very supportive. I mean, we have the staunchings of the old railway bridge in Galway.
You mentioned helipad and you lost your time there, so you have to move on to Mark Lohan of Sinn Féin. Mark, in terms of active travel, what are your thoughts on Sinn Féin for Galway City and County?
Well, I'll finish Tom's thought on the bridge going across the Corrib, and I think it would be wonderful to have a cycle bridge going across there, and I'd be in agreement with him on that. Active travel is a great idea. It gets us out. The local authorities are all funded now centrally from government, and I welcome that, recognise it. They have engineers in for active travel to get us moving and get us mobile, and that's good. I mentioned earlier that I'm a cyclist as well as a pedestrian. I'm a driver most of the time, but that's not by choice. It's because I have to for my work. I would love to be able to use active travel more, especially in the city, to get around.
So what are your solutions? Anecdotes are lovely. What are your solutions?
The solution is, well, it's up to the engineers to come up with the solutions, and you've made the point earlier that we're running for public office to encourage policy, and the policy
what
of
plans would you like to see?
I'd like to see cycling safer, because, and that was the point I was making, is that I said I do cycle in from home. I cycle down the Dyke Road, but I'm afraid once I get to Wood Quay because.
So do you want a
it's too
European
dangerous.
model like we see in Paris and French and European cities, or what model do you want to see?
I would like to see well, it has to be done with consultation. And a number of years back, we had a city centre transport management plan that was very ambitious, and it was bold and brave, and it would take courage to implement it. And it died on the vine, as so many things did. But what that plan said, it was going to prioritise public transport through the city at certain hours and trial it. Now, people who live in the city centre would have to be facilitated, but to try it as something, and then that would facilitate pedestrians and bicycles, and people like me who are afraid of falling off the bike could maybe cycle safer.
Mark Lona, Sinn Féin. On now to Meaja Nick Inlake of the Social Democrats. Any key priorities of active travel here in Galway City, or even with those types of measures in the county as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I want to start off saying Galway County is the worst in the country when it comes to active travel. Galway City is the second worst. We get pittance in comparison to other places because we don't spend it when we have it, and the NTA doesn't bring it back. So priorities for me is putting pressure on both councils, putting pressure on the people who have that role to actually make these things happen. That includes the Connemara Greenway, and particularly when it comes to Moycullen, that there's a safe connection from that Greenway to where people live. We have a developer-led model in this country when it comes to housing, which means we have so many estates in Knocknacar and Oranmore where you see bike lanes within the estates, and then they will go up straight out onto a national road where there is piecemeal nothing for them to be protected in. So for me, that joined-up thinking is a priority.
We heard there from Mark Lohan that they are funded centrally by government. Do we need more boots on the ground and funding for the local authorities if they are worst and second worst, as you say?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, there is...
How much will the SOC Dems commit to Galway City and County Council in that regard then?
So I can't give you a figure, but I will say that we have always been in favour of stronger local government, that they have more funding
How do you see that
available to them.
achieved?
Well, it's been done all across Europe. We are the worst in Europe when it comes to devolved power to local government. We are the worst when it comes to local democracy.
So the Social Democrats Turkeys will vote
that.
for Christmas and give away some of your power to the local authorities?
Well, we have plenty of councillors all around the place. We have Alan Curran out in Galway City West.
Yeah.
And we double our seats in every election, so I'd be looking forward to working with a lot more of them from here on out.
Okay, that's Meaja Nick Inlake of the Social Democrats. Move on to Dr. Sheila Garrity, Independent. When it comes to active travel for you, Sheila, what are your key priorities here in Galway City, but even out into Connemara and the county?
There's a concept called 880 cities, and that's about developing cities to meet the needs of 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds. And I'd actually pull that down and say 8-month-olds to 80-year-olds. If you design your infrastructure, your roads, your paths, your public transport to accommodate people who are 8 months old to 80 years old, you accommodate everyone in between. When I had my community meeting in Ballyban, I was expecting a lot of complaints about the development that was happening on the roads there, but actually the people who came to that meeting was a man who's moved home to be the carer of his mother who's wheelchair bound, who's welcomed the access, a dad of a young child who said since becoming a father he's realized how inaccessible most of the city is, and 2 people who are cycle commuters. I'm a cycle commuter myself, and when I cycle around Galway City...
It's an interesting concept, but how do you ensure that works? How do you put that model onto a medieval designed city in Galway?
You have consultations with people. So, I mean, we're
how do you get over heritage, environment, all the other things that
you
are
bring
in
people
City?
Around the table. So you
How do you get over the laws that are in place in that regard?
Let's bring people around the table.
Okay.
Let's bring them around the table. Let's bring people who can speak to us about heritage. Somebody like Derek, who's got a real commitment to the Galway Trust and understands about our heritage buildings. Let's bring people who have the access issues. We need to hear from people who say, this is my difficulty of getting from here to there. And then we can come up with creative solutions that are part of the community-led solutions.
Okay. That's Dr. Sheila Garrity, Independent. I'm moving on now to Denman Rook of People Before Profit. Talk to me about active travel. What are your key priorities for Galway City and even into the county as well?
Yeah, kind of similar to what I said earlier. Questions is I would want to make sure that they're segregated and safe, and sometimes that means, as you're kind of talking there about medieval city challenges, some of that means maybe moving car roads, pedestrianizing areas that are car dependent at the moment. We've seen it done all throughout Europe, and so I'd be advocating for something like that, is moving cars out of our city
Where do you want
centres.
to pedestrianise in particular in Galway City?
I personally would love to see the Salt Hill Cycleway that was proposed implemented. I would love to. What if that whole corridor there wasn't traffic there? It was cycling, gluous, cycle lanes.
For people who don't know, is that the promenade area you're on about there?
Yeah. Why not? Why couldn't that? I think
no
it
cars
would
all
also
the length of the prom.
Sure, why not? Like, as long as we're implementing, like, obviously you wouldn't just do that in isolation. If you're bringing in Glewis, active travel,
do you think
dedicated bus
there'll be
lanes.
buy-in from councillors in the city for that, who make the point that a lot of people are coming to Salt Hill on holidays and need to drive to their location?
Yeah, well, do park and ride, do proper public infrastructure. So again, this is just an idea I'm throwing out there, but we need to re-envision how we look at our city, and a lot of that means pulling
Can we
people out
do
of
all
cars.
that at the same time? Because we're all focusing on one single ring road last while there.
Goodness sakes, yeah. No, I mean, we need to focus our attentions on a new vision for how we look at our city, and it needs to involve pulling people out of cars.
Denman Rook of People for Profit, thank you. On now to Niall Murphy of the Green Party. Active travel, your favourite now, Niall. Go
Active
on.
travel, well, I do want to talk about active travel infrastructure, but just before that I'll make the point that the number one thing that makes the roads in Galway safer for cycling is more cyclists. If there's one cyclist on the roundabout, you might not see him if you're driving a car. If there's 20 cyclists on a roundabout, you see them all, so you wait for a gap in the cyclists. So I'd like to thank anyone who's here this evening who came by bike or by bus for their contribution to reducing the traffic in Galway City this evening. But on the infrastructure piece, there's been quite a number of active travel schemes going on in Galway at the moment, and the Ballyban and Borstiffon got a fair amount of bad press. And I think there's a huge communication piece there to be managed, and maybe and the city council probably could do more, even though I appreciate the.
So you're fine with them, but just it was communicated badly.
What occurred to me after a while was, if you look at Duishka South, which is finished now, when that was being done, there was uproar. And I work in Ormore, and I used to call down there sometimes to see how much uproar there was. And I would see 2 or 3 cars queuing up at the junction. There was nothing going on. But the newspapers and the media and the social media, and even when I knocked on doors in Knocknacarra, people who'd never been to Duishka were giving out about it because they'd heard so much about how bad it was. And then when they'd finished all the building works, it was fine.
Okay.
So I think the same will happen.
The same is true in Ballyban, do you?
Ballyban and Borstiffon, I think they'll be fine.
Stop signs in the middle of driveways.
And I think if you look back, most of you will remember when we pedestrianised Shop Street, and that was going to be the end of Galway. And now, would anybody change it back now? No, they wouldn't. So I think we do have, with our infrastructure, to tolerate a little bit of inconvenience.
Okay, I want to move on now to Independent Ireland Councillor Noel Thomas. What's your thoughts on active travel here in Galway City and further into the county?
You know my thoughts on it, John, in particular areas anyway. And look, I am in support of active travel. There's no question about that. But as I said to you, look, Ballyban Road is the example I'll use again, right? And again, it's only a design flaw on junctions. Other than that, it's 100%. But I think
is it a design flaw as opposed to regulations that were wrong coming down from the
it's
DMTA?
obviously it's called the Deemer's Manual that governs it. But I mean that is a design flaw as far as I'm concerned. But I mean,
would you change that in government?
I would love to. Yes, if I got a half a chance, I would.
To what?
I would change it just to a safer width of a junction to make it more easier for drivers to manoeuvre. But what I would say, John, about it is I'm not against the notion of giving, say, priority to pedestrians and cyclists on the junctions.
But not buses.
What do you mean not buses? No, I wanted buses there, as you know yourself, from the arguments we had before on that. But the point I'm trying to make on that, John, is you got to do it safely.
I know before you said to me you want to see a lay-by for the buses to pull in to allow cars to pass by. Is that not?
Well, that should have been part of just the whole thing, John. Look at the beginning.
But then that doesn't give buses priority.
What I'm trying to make on this, John, is you have to be careful how you do it, because I cycled an awful lot up until a short while ago till I just damaged my knee. So I've travelled all over the Galway City, and so that the active travel is actually quite safe how it's laid out in comparison to anyone that knows, say, Bourne-na-Drab, for example, where you've got the cycle lane as part of the road. And you're playing with your life, because the left-hand side of everyone's car is where your lane is. If that car in front of you is not incredibly careful watching their mirrors, they will cut out across you. That's dangerous sort of design, if you ask me, whereas active travel is actually quite safe.
All right, we're moving on now. That's Noel Thomas of Independent Ireland. On now to Labour Councillor for the city, Helen Ogbu. Helen, talk us through active travel. What are your key priorities in Labour?
Thank you, John. Well, when we talk about active travel, what we're talking about is accessible system of transport to make it easy for people to move from point A to point B. And we need to also factor in, like in most European countries, when people are planning on building new housing estates, they also factor in the plans. They ask, what do people need? What would make the place, the homes accessible for people? And I think that's the way we should start, factoring in and trying to build or to plan for active travels, especially cycle lanes, so that children or families who live in those homes will be able to cycle safely from point A to point B, especially if their schools are nearby. Also, if we talk about active travels, we're trying to make it accessible for people with disability. If you look around the city, it's difficult for someone with disability, especially someone with visual disability, or even using wheelchair to move or to navigate the footpaths.
How do you achieve that here in Galway City?
Well, the way we achieve that, and that is something we're looking at, I put in a motion for a full-time disability access officer, which we will be employing someone. It received a majority approval.
An officer is fine, but it doesn't deal with the problem on the ground today.
Well, it does, because we're not going to deal with it today, but we're going to start dealing with it, because the officer will be able to engage with planners and the builders and engineers whenever they are planning to develop anything. Thank you.
Helen, thanks for that comment. That's Helen Ogbu of Labour. On now to Fianna Fáil Councillor Killian Kane. Active travel, what are your key priorities here in Galway City and County?
Well, I'm going to start by looking at what my own personal experience in terms of active travel in Oranmore, and I suppose no reference to the Emer's manual. And one thing that I've always spoken about that is we haven't given enough of a degree of autonomy to engineers within local authorities to alter. We've seen it in Oranmore when it comes to active travel schemes.
Once it starts, you're locked in.
You're locked in. And that is an issue, and I think it has to be addressed. It's something that I would like to see addressed going forward, because we've seen it with the Safe Routes to School in Oranmore.
How can you just explain to us how that you're going to do that? And why haven't government done it already?
Well, I haven't been there to ask for it yet, so I suppose I can't have asked.
Your colleague is the Minister for Transport.
I have asked for it, yes, and I've asked it to be considered, because...
What response have you gotten back?
I'm waiting for the response, actually, at
Since
this moment
when?
in time, since about 2 weeks ago.
Is that good enough?
Issues. Well, look.
Easter break.
Things happen. But the other issue that I would look at in terms of this as well, and it's something that I've highlighted in the council, is the Section 38 public consultations. And often what you find is people who live in an area don't know what's going on. Because whether we like it or not, whether it's local media or social media, people don't necessarily tune in to actually see what Galway County Council or what Galway City Council are doing. And one thing that I've been advocating for... Are there not
leaflet drops as well to houses?
Yeah, but I think the simple solution is, when the public consultation window is, and I've advocated for this, that we use public signage. And the reality is, if you live on a road, and I'm just going to take, for example, the Mary Road in Oranmore with the Safe Routes to School, if there was a sign there for the period that the public consultation was on, if you didn't drive or walk or cycle past it, well then you mightn't have need to see the submission, but everyone who is relevant to it would have seen it, and it's something that I've advocated for.
Mayor and Independent Councillor Mike Cupboard, your thoughts on active travel, key priorities for you?
Yeah, first off, John, it was this year we received an increase of 550,000 for Galway City, which is welcome, up to 9.5 million. And you mentioned some of the other projects that are going on.
So well done, government, in that regard, is it?
Absolutely, yeah. I have no problem saying that. If funding is increased, well done. Monavea Road will start. We've seen the Salmon Weir crossing has been completed. So it's welcome that we're looking at active travel right across the city.
Should the Salmon Weir crossing had a cycle lane as well, should it have? Was that badly designed?
I'm not an engineer. You're asking me about designs.
You're happy with it, so is
I'm
what I'm
happy with
asking.
it, yeah. But again, it's awful easy. People come in and blame councillors. Everything's wrong. Everything's bad. When a project's delivered, no one says, not to me, but to the engineers.
So councillors shouldn't be held accountable?
Of course we should.
Okay.
But no one seems to ever remember any project that's delivered. Secondly, one of the best presentations we got in the council in my time was about quiet ways, about delivering routes for people to travel from A to B, and the wording they use is convenient, well signposted residential streets that are low trafficked, and it produces a calmer, more scenic route to get from A to B. And the best route presentation I've seen was on the quiet ways. That needs to be progressed. And the third part, John, is safe routes to schools. We've seen at the moment we've got tender documents in now for 8 new schools in our city. We'll see safe routes to schools for 8 schools. We're currently in-house.
A lot out Barnaway are crying out for it, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, it's a massive.
How do we fast track them?
Need to be fast tracked. Well, in the city council alone, as I said, we're progressing 8 at the moment. No doubt Galway County should be doing the same. We're working in-house.
You're looking to represent more in the city in this
absolutely,
by-election.
Yeah. But I suppose I'm standing here as a candidate saying, right, up to now I've been working on behalf of Galway City Council. We're delivering where we can. We have safe schools, rules to schools. Now we're working on that in the Carroll School at the moment. We've 8 more delivered in terms of design. Let me now work with colleagues to deliver more for Galway County and more, because again, if people and the last point is, John, the walking and cycling index shows us now yesterday that 23,000 cars will come off the roads of Galway if they're given a safe way to cycle, to walk, or wheel to school or work or so on.
Okay.
So again, we've got to deliver on that.
Any questions from the crowd? Hands up if you do have any questions. And
My name is Pat Spellman and I welcome the opportunity to speak to the panel. My name is Pat Spellman and I welcome the opportunity to speak to the panel here tonight. I'm the chair of the Renmore Area Traffic Committee. I spoke with yourself, John, back in November. We held a protest on our street. The streets of Renmore are a victim of the chaos of the traffic of Galway. I didn't hear any one of you mention that you're all looking for votes and will be. Renmore is a highly populated area. All streets in Renmore, not just the rat run routes, are affected, be it bad roads, potholes. Every resident in Renmore is watching, and we have lots of WhatsApp groups to inform.
So Pat, just so I know, the question is, what are you going to do to deal with rat runs? Is that what you're asking?
My question is here, I've heard active travel mentioned, I've heard the ring road, so forth, Bus Connect in particular. Our big fear here in Renmore is when the go-ahead is given for the Bus Connects, there's going to be chaos on the Dublin Road for the construction. And the fear is that because Renmore roads are run parallel, it's going to increase the rat running.
Anyone to take that? Hands up. Anyone to take that? Niall? Briefly, Niall, if you have a mic there. Someone give Niall a mic. Niall Murphy, Green Party.
Hello, thanks very much. And I pass through Renmore a lot more. I work in Ormore, I live in Salt Hill. I pass through, and generally by bike. So I'm very familiar with what you're describing. But I've always wondered, in Murrow, you could put in bollards. Now, it would mean people living in these estates would have to exit one way or the other. The residents would get less options, but it would immediately cut 99% of the rat running, I would think.
Yeah.
So
that's one. Okay, that's one. Yeah. Anyone else want to answer that one there? Meja, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Renmore a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of your neighbours raised those exact issues. Old people afraid to go out their front door in case they
What
fall
solution
on
do you
the
have,
street.
briefly?
For me, when it comes to the rat run, it is bollards are a potential solution. Temporary traffic lights while works on the Dublin Road happen are a potential solution, but I think it needs to also be in consultation with what the community want and need.
Yeah, Mark Lohan, briefly.
Yeah, one solution to that, and we looked at it when we had the problem coming in off the Headford Road previously, is no right turn during certain hours, so or no left turn. So cars can't go in the morning rush hour or in the evening
How
rush
do you enforce
hour.
that?
You enforce that by how you enforce any traffic enforcement.
Gardaí?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anyone else have a different point? Yeah, Noel Thomas, so go on.
Just quickly on it, John. Look, at those areas were originally meant to be housing estates. Like, so they should never have
What's
had
your solution?
So that's the
Past in the
solution
past.
is there should be a one-way system at the very least, or else it should be blocked off on one end, because they said they were supposed to be housing estates from day one. Okay. There shouldn't be thoroughfare traffic going through those areas, number one.
Okay,
That's it.
we're going to move on from that now and get let some of the other councillors answer other questions. Anyone else have a question there? Yeah. Reg.
Helsinki achieved 0 fatalities between July 22 and July 2025 by introducing 30-kilometre speed limit in urban areas. So I suppose it's just a yes or no from the candidates. Would you support a blanket 30-kilometre speed limit within
city limits?
Urban areas? Obviously, we're
hands
talking
up
about
for yes. And hands down again, hands up for no. So they all support us. There's your answer. Anyone else have a question? Tommy. Give Tommy Roddy the mic.
Tommy Roddy is Anamdom. The point I'd like to make, I live in Ballyban, and it has been brought up about the bad publicity that roadworks have got, and some of that maybe is deserving. But it's nearly finished at the moment, and it is looking quite well. But my issue with it is the fact that there are no dedicated bus lanes. There are beautiful cycle lanes. I live there and I see very few cyclists around the place. And as long as buses share the road with ordinary motorists, you will never have a reliable bus service. And that's my biggest problem with it. I don't know how much money has been spent on it. And
so just so I can get to it, Tommy, you want to see a bus lane put in that route now after it's been redone and put a bus lane in?
No, I think it's too late at this stage. But
just for future projects.
I know there's a talk about a system being brought in Knocknacarra, but I think people need maybe to let the system in Ballyban bed in first. But as I said, my biggest problem is there are no dedicated bus lanes.
Yeah. Who wants to take that one? Should we have bus lanes? Tom Welby, give him the mic there, please, Sheila.
There's a serious discussion in relation to Ballyban, and I always said, half-built house doesn't look right. You have to wait and let it finish. I mean, the buses. One of the issues that we have everywhere in Galway is speed. And I mean, that gentleman asked about 30 kilometre speed limits. We're looking at bringing 30 kilometre speed limits.
He is asking about bus lanes, though. He's asking about bus lanes.
Unfortunately,
should they be in? You want to see how Ballyban plays out?
You have to wait and see how Ballyban plays out. Okay. And in relation to the design and
anyone
things
else
like
something different on that? Yeah, Sheila, go on. And get to the solution straight away, please, Sheila.
Hi, thanks, Tommy. I think that when you're doing developments, road developments, if there's space for dedicated bus lanes, they should be put in as a matter of course.
Okay. Anyone else in my cupboard wants to come in on that as well?
Thanks, John. And Tommy's right. Bus lanes need to be put in. Simply, last night we were told at our council meeting, which is probably the
across the
daftest
board. You shouldn't wait and see what happens.
No, last night. Let me finish. We were told last night the daftest thing I've ever heard, that the planned road for the Western Distributor Road, I put in cycleways and so on, that the NTA have told the Director of Services that they're planning in 2 years' time or 3 years' time to come back and tear it all up again and put in bus lanes. So proper planning and proper thinking and proper common sense. Do it all together. The spaces there, as someone said earlier on. Do it all together once and for all. But telling us that they're going to actually come back in a couple of years' time and waste money on that and tear it all up is nonsense.
Okay.
So come back and do it right. Do it all together.
Any further questions from the crowd there? This gentleman here.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point about planning is that you plan so that things are thought about 5 years ahead. They've just taken a decision to allow a park and ride on the Kappa Road with no bus connection at all, the NTA, and that's going to be appealed.
Yeah,
that's the decision.
So who wants to hop in on that? Should it not go ahead in its current format, or what do you want to see? Helen Ogbu of Labour first on that.
Well, thank you for that. We are in support of park and ride, but we've also called for the bus corridor, and that will be looked into. So it was discussed.
If it comes to an either or, should we scrap it and start again, or?
Well, definitely we're going to have a bus corridor. We're going to have a bus corridor because there's no way we can have a park and ride without a bus corridor.
Okay, I want to go to you on that, Noel Thomas of Independent Ireland. Give him a mic.
My view on that is very simple. It's scrap it, put the money somewhere else where it might be more important, because there is no.
Scrap that project.
Yes, because there is no bus corridor in place, which means what's the point?
As Helen Ogbu told you, they're discussing that currently.
But they're not. That's not going to happen, John, anytime soon.
But she said she's confident it is. How? What information are you getting?
People are going to come in off a bus from Connemara and hop off and hop in or come in the car and hop off out of their car and hop into a bus.
So you think it's the wrong location altogether? There should be more Salt Hill direction.
If the bus corridor is in place, it's 100% right.
Okay. Well, it might be with further discussions. Any other questions coming from the crowds there? Lots of them. Brendan Mulligan. We about time for one or two more, so be quick. Get straight to the question, Brendan.
Yeah, it's more of a clarification.
Yeah.
Having more than one route for Glewis and Galway was mentioned a couple of times here tonight, as if it was some kind of utopia.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify. The city of Freiburg in Germany is slightly smaller than Galway, and it has 5 lanes or 5 routes.
So what's the
question? The question is, why are we not willing to be ambitious and imagine 5 bus routes or 5 Glewis routes in Galway city? And that would accommodate a population of a quarter of a million.
Hands up if you would be in favour of 5 Glewis routes in Galway City. Is there anyone against that? No, there isn't. Okay, but who will achieve it? Any other questions? This gentleman here. This could be the last one now, so if it's a different one, please.
I'm Ian from Rahoon. It's sounding from the audience here like everyone's in favour of everything, which is easy enough. But what's going to be really hard is hitting our legally binding climate goals, which require us to drop traffic emissions by 50% by 2030 and
question, Eniac.
20% less driving. So for those of you who took the easy option of supporting the popular ring road, I ask, how can I trust you to make the hard decision of cutting down our driving by 20% in 5 years?
Okay,
4 years.
Who wants to take that one? Sheila, Garrity, Independent.
Thank you for the question, Ian. I've been saying since the beginning of the night, we need to make public transport more attractive than being in your private vehicle.
Give us a solution.
We do that by making our Glewis, bus corridors, wherever we're developing roads, we're putting in bus corridors.
Not going to happen overnight, though. How are you going to do it in
well,
the here
we're doing
now?
we're doing it as we go. We're doing it as we go, and if we don't do it, we're paying the money that we could be spending on creating a.
Yeah, Killian Kane. We'll go Killian Kane on that.
Yeah, I think it's. I find it quite entertaining that previous speakers have said, we're all for this utopia that we're going to get everything done. But
So what solution are you going to get to the 50%
and I've said it
reduction in
earlier and I've
emissions?
said it again
Yeah.
in terms of the critical infrastructure bill, and that's
Okay.
the reality. Because everybody here
So
will sit
ensuring
down.
the ring road will ensure 50% reduction
No,
in
no,
emissions.
no. I didn't say the ring road. The point I'm making is that we're going to talk about all these projects that are going to create a utopia that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But everybody here is going to find fault with what's going on, and everybody's going to pause everything.
How are you going to
and
reduce
if we
the
want
emissions?
to actually deliver on infrastructure and deliver on this public transport network that everybody is talking about, we have to get serious about.
Yeah.
streamlining
Anyone have
it
something
and delivering
different?
it.
Niall Murphy, the Green Party. Solution,
Two-
please.
Two points on emissions. One, don't build the ring road. The documents of the ring road say there'll be a lot of emissions. The second thing you have to do.
We're going to court. Okay,
and
yeah,
the second
go
thing
on.
you have to do is modify the critical infrastructure bill, because while there's a lot of good things in the critical infrastructure bill, one of the things it does is it says that any piece of critical infrastructure can
Subserve
ignore
temperature.
climate
Okay.
targets.
Demon, yeah.
Yeah, also scrap the ring road. It's a complete waste of money and is terrible for the environment. We should instead be pouring that money into all the other things that everyone is a fan of tonight. So why don't we do that?
So no one has other solutions like HVO, which would reduce emissions by 90%. No one has
Yeah,
solutions
but
like
also
that.
free public transport, get
do-
people
okay.
out of their cars.
Yeah, fine. We do have to move on. If the Galway Commuter Coalition City Network have their yes/no questions they want to ask, or have some of them been answered?
I'd say some of them have been answered.
Rattle through them.
I'll go through them as fast as I can. Okay, the first one is, I'm Lachlan, by the way. I'm the chair of the Galway Commuter Coalition. Short yes/no one. If elected, either in opposition or in government, will you fight for the capital funding to be made available for the construction of both Galway Bus Connects corridors in a revised national development plan in the lifetime of this Dáil?
Hands up for yes. That's everyone. Okay, next one.
And I have a follow-up one that's very similar. If elected, either in opposition or in government, will you fight for the capital funding for the doubling and electrification of the Galway rail line to vastly increase its capacity as part of a revised national development plan within the lifetime of this Dáil?
Up for yes. Any no's? No, they're all yes.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Any other questions from the Coalition City Network cycling campaign? No. All okay. In that case, I'm going to give all our candidates their 30-second closing summation of this. We'll start with Independent Councillor Thomas Welby here beside me. 30 seconds starts now.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to come here tonight. Great to get the input from the crowd in relation to it. I think whoever is elected, we need to try and move Galway back into a sustainable situation. We have lost our way in a long time, and I will be willing to talk to anybody after election if elected. Thank you.
Thank you, and well in time as well. Mark Lohan of Sinn Féin, your time starts now.
Yeah, thank you to the organisers, to our host, our compere, and to everyone for your contributions this evening. I found it informative and helpful. I drive, I walk, I cycle, I use public transport. I want to use more of of not driving, and to be able to do that. And the ideas that have come out tonight, the things that I have said, I want to be part of that solution. So our city is easy to get across, it's comfortable, it's safe, and I think that is within our ability. And I look forward to working with everyone.
That's Mark Lohan of Sinn Féin. Meet Nick Inlake of the Social Democrats. Your 30 seconds starts now.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people agreeing on everything tonight. The one thing to keep in mind is that government parties haven't delivered it. We haven't seen Bus Connects, we haven't seen Lewis. We need to see those things. We need to see governments that are serious about our climate ambitions, and we need to see opposition TDs who are willing to hold them to account when they don't implement that. That's what's important to me, and that's what I want to push for when it comes to transport in Galway.
Meja, thank you. That's Meja Nick Inlake of the Social Democrats. Independent Dr. Sheila Garrity, your 30 seconds start now.
The social contract between the people of Ireland and the government is broken. It hasn't been broken by the people. We've upheld our side of the bargain. This government has shown that it's incapable, uninterested, or unwilling to solve the multiple crises being faced by the people of Ireland, and that's with money pouring in the front door. There's one seat available in this by-election. It won't change the government, but it could set the stage for the next general election. The people of Galway West need to send a message to the government that they haven't done enough.
Time's up.
Okay,
Dr.
thank
Sheila
you.
Garrity, Independent, thank you for that. Denman Rook of People for Profit, your 30 seconds start now.
Yeah, so we've had 100 years of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. It's a time that we actually have people in the Dáil that are challenging that government and continuing to push for things. So my colleagues and I in Galway and People for Profit put together a Galway Transport Vision 3 years ago. I would recommend you go check that out at pppgalway.ie. It outlines everything we've been talking about tonight. So
Damon Rucker, People for Profit, thank you. On now to Niall Murphy of the Green Party, 30 seconds now.
Yeah, thank you. I suppose to sum up my vision of transport in Galway, if we're successful, is it's partly defined by the journeys that we don't do rather than the journeys we do. I referred in my opening about housing and planning and communities and being able to, if you walk to the bus, you walk past the front door of your neighbour, so you might stop and say hello to them. You might have more contact with your community. Canada is isolated from your community. The journey you might not do is your child going to school. At a young age, they should be able to make their own way and be independent and not be driven by the parent.
Time's up. Niall Murphy, the Green Party there. On now to Independent Ireland Councillor Noel Thomas. Your 30 seconds, it starts now.
Well, one thing that's very positive here from tonight is we all seem to be singing off the same hymn sheet anyway in relation to what's needed here. Look, I've given my priorities already. I'm pushing strong for a very serious increase in public transport in Galway City. Glue being my preference where possible. And look, at also, as I highlighted, earmarking transport corridors is vitally important, but proper, reliable transport is what's needed so people will actually use it. And if I'm successful in getting elected, I will fight for all those things.
That's Independent Ireland Councillor Noel Thomas. On now to Helen Ogbu, Labour Councillor for the City. Your 30 seconds start now.
Thank you. Labour has a vision for Galway to be the best place in Ireland to live, work and raise a family. Transport is vital in making this vision a reality. And we support, and I will support, active travel, the Galway rail system, light rail system, and also ensure that we think about the people and consult the people in everything that we do. We also make sure that we have school bus.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
That's Labour Councillor for the City, Helen Ogbu. On now to Fianna Fáil Councillor Cillian Kane. Your 30 seconds start now.
Thanks very much, John. It's great to hear people's insights on what they feel they need to do in Galway. But I suppose, look, we're all in agreement here on what needs to be done. But what I'm actually worried about is how we get about doing it, and that's the reality. So look, I'm asking people to look at someone who's solution driven and wants to actually do something for people on the ground. And I suppose, I just really look forward to the chance to talking to people here afterwards.
That's Cillian Kane, Fianna Fáil Councillor. On now to Mike Cupboard, Mayor for the City and independent candidate in this Galway West by-election. Your 30 seconds start now.
Thanks, John. Thanks for the opportunity this evening. I want to bring my experience as a local councillor to Dáil Éireann to represent all of Galway from a grassroots up. People tonight spoke about red line issues. My red line issues have always come from the grassroots up, and that's how I operate as an independent, and that's how I would do so in Dublin. I have a proven track record working with all parties and all independents at local level to deliver for Galway. My delivery record at local level in my local area is there for all to see. I'm asking for the opportunity to represent all Galway and deliver on a national stage. Come on.
Yeah, Independent Councillor Mike Cupboard, thank you for that contribution. That's nearly all we have time for. I just want to go over to Brendan Holland very quick of the Gluas campaign. He wants to say a quick thank you to the audience.
Just very quick thank you. Just to let you know that the four groups that got together, the Galway City Community Group, the Galway Community Coalition, the Cycling Fraternity and Gluas, all came together out of frustration, pure and utter frustration with what's gone on in Galway in the last 20 or 30 years. And if it carries on as it's going, Galway will dwindle and die. That's the I promise you. But we are at a crossroads and we can do the right thing. And the right thing coming from here is, and coming from there, is we must improve public transport system. Public transport is the way of the future. We can't depend on the car. In a recent crisis, I can't remember which of them it was, but the government's motto was, control what you control. And I think it's ironic that they gave the planning permission for the ring road, of which Gluas has no opinion on either way. We'd see ourselves as apples and oranges when it comes to that. But what the government said was, control what you can control. And I thought it was ironic that they gave the planning permission for the road the very day we're queuing up for diesel, which we cannot control in one bit. We cannot control because it's been controlled by far, far away. But we can control light rail, which is powered by electricity, which should be coming in from the wind on the Atlantic. We should be the Saudi Arabia of wind power, generating our own electricity. And we need to be in control of where we're going. Thanks very much. First of all, I'd like to thank John. I think he did a fantastic job on and I really would like to thank all of these, and even the ones that didn't get here, all two of them, that didn't get here for genuine reasons, that I would like to thank you. First of all, for standing in the election.
It's the power of this country that we have a democratic system where anybody can stand up and say their piece, and they're all entitled to their voice, whether we believe it or agree with it.